Good morning. Welcome to week 6 of You and I Together, an all Idaho Thanksgiving. So just a little quick introduction for those of you that maybe are new to this program or are new to Extension and everything that we have to offer the state and beyond. University of Idaho Extension brings knowledge and research of the university to you, where you live when it's convenient for you. We're working on issues that are important to you. These include food production systems, agriculture, horticulture, 4-H youth development, community development, nutrition, health and wellness, forestry and natural resources, and water. And we're located in every county in the state. So we have a quick video. I'm hoping that the sound is going to show, but if not, the pictures are pretty. And this is a highlight of the program area that I work in, which is horticulture, small farms, and food production.
University of Idaho Extension is helping to shape the food systems and landscapes of Idaho for the future. From home gardening education to solutions for short season and high altitude gardening, fire-resistant plants, and pest and disease management, UI Extension is growing and cultivating a better future.
So that was our little introduction video. And if you're on today, I'm hoping that means that those are topics that particularly interest you. And so I'm glad that you're here. So I guess this is the slide in which I introduce myself to you. My name is Ariel Eggenbrad. I've been with Extension about 14 years now. I started in Canyon County and then moved to Ada County, where I'm now an area educator, meaning that I serve a pretty wide range of communities in southwestern Idaho. I'm most inspired by helping people grow, and that could be actually growing crops, growing livestock, or just growing their abilities, their imaginations, and their interest in local food and farms. I work with a lot of different groups, including farmers markets, urban farmers, community gardens, school gardens. I teach new farmers, experienced farmers. I have programs for military veterans, for families, for youth, and for individuals. And I really support local food innovations, entrepreneurs, natural resource conservation, and local economies. So our small farms website is right there. It's uidaho.edu/small-farms. And on that page, you'll find a lot about the different programs that we offer, the different kinds of opportunities there are for knowledge and education related to everything local food, whether it's local food from your own patio all the way to a larger farm. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. All right, so I was really excited to have an opportunity to come up with an idea for You and I Together around Thanksgiving. I love holidays, but Thanksgiving is a particularly special one to me. For many years, I hosted my family and friends at my house. My house has gotten smaller, but this year I'm still going to try to pull it off. We're trying to think about where we can move the couch so that we can have a table in there. But you know, a lot of love goes into many people's Thanksgiving preparations. And when we think about our Thanksgiving table, we might be thinking about literally the table, right? What's on it, our decorations, our heirlooms. You know, there's things that sometimes we keep in a cupboard way up high in the kitchen or in the garage that only come out at Thanksgiving. So maybe you have some of these special things. It might be, you know, your grandmother's china or a gravy boat that you inherited, or even things that you've come up with new traditions for yourself and your family. You know, some people don't have a lot of family around, and so they come up with their own traditions. You know, as our family has changed over the years, it's grown, it's gotten smaller. We really just celebrate time to get together. And I think for me especially, it's really about the food. So when I think about my Thanksgiving table, I'm thinking about what goes on the table as far as making everyone feel welcome, making sure they have enough forks and things like that. But then I'm also really thinking about the food itself. And Thanksgiving is a time that I really think about my own gratitude for the people that produce our food, whether it's the farmers and ranchers, the farm workers, the laborers, the harvesters, anyone involved in food processing, food packaging, the shipping of food, all the way to where we're purchasing it, whether we're purchasing at farmers market, whether we're purchasing it from a retail grocer, all the different people and the planet that come together to make that food happen. And so for Thanksgiving, I really like to challenge myself, and this is the challenge that I'm offering to all of you, to think about where our food is coming from for Thanksgiving. Now, I think it's fairly easy to think about one dish that can come from Idaho on our tables pretty easily, and that would be the potatoes, right? But what about some of the other foods that you might find? So turkey is a little bit harder to source locally, depending on where you live and if you have access to local processors or you don't want to take care of that yourself. But now it's actually late summer, early fall is the time to get on a list for a local farm to get a fresh turkey, but they are out there and they're fantastic. But across Idaho, lots of storage crops like winter onions, winter squash, things like that, pumpkins, apples are all totally in season right now and at their very best. And so I really would encourage you to think about what could be on your table that is Idaho grown. And we could be thinking about things you grow in your own garden or things that are available in local farms. And sometimes it's easiest to do this with some of your additional ingredients, your herbs and seasonings, your last minute flavors. And you might expand your sense of local to include the Northwest and not just Idaho. So in your handouts, you've all gotten this chart, or it's a little table for you to print out and to think about what goes on your Thanksgiving table, what you can grow yourself, what might be in your garden or farm. And I gave you some resources for finding out more. I want to talk about sourcing from your own backyard. And so this is really interesting to me. And one of the plants that always grows in my landscape, no matter the size of it, is sage. And I really think about sage as that quintessential Thanksgiving flavor, right? It's in our stuffing, it's in our turkey, it's in our gravy. It's so delicious. So today I wanted to talk about another way to use sage that would be really easy, and that's in a holiday sparkler drink. So an herb sparkler, I've got the recipe up there for you all on the handout section, so you're welcome to download that and follow along. You can do this with any flavorful herb that you like. I love sage because, again, like I said, it reminds me of all things Thanksgiving. You could certainly do rosemary, thyme, mint, really any of the herbs that you like. If you still had basil somewhere, though we finally had our hard frost the other night and we don't have any more basil anywhere. So I use sage. So the instructions are to first, you're going to boil some sugar or another sweetener that is your choice with water. Boil it for about 1 minute, then turn it off the heat and let it steep. And after about 30 minutes, you're going to have a syrup. It's just a simple syrup. You can do this with lots of things. You might even try it with lavender. Anyway, so you've got this simple syrup. So it's a sweet, herby syrup. And to make a drink out of it, we are going to, it's really easy. The other thing is if you didn't have time, you didn't want to make the whole simple syrup, you could actually just take a few leaves from your herbs. You could put them into your cup or in a bowl, and you could use a muddling stick, muddling, or even a wooden spoon to just crush those herbs and really kind of get them in there. And then you could remove them or leave them in the drink. But we went ahead and did the simple syrup because I thought that would be a little fancier for today. Okay, so now we're going to fill our cup with ice. It's really simple. I washed my hands before I started. Okay. And now we're going to add, let's see, what are the instructions? Just some of the herb syrup. So you're going to have to experiment to find out what you like because it's pretty concentrated. Okay, so we have a little bit of our herb syrup, and then I've got a few different beverage choices to choose from. I'm not going to promote any certain brands, but I've got ginger ale. I've got a sparkling, sugar-free, no additives seltzer. It's just flavor and water. And I've got some lemon soda. So I'm thinking that the lemon soda is probably going to be really good with this sage. So we've got our simple syrup. We're going to add our lemon soda. Right. We're going to stir a little bit, and then we're going to garnish it with a little sprig of sage. And I've got two kinds of sage here. I've got Bergarten and just regular aficionado, regular garden sage. So either one is great. So there's our little drink, right? A little herb sparkler, and I should try it and make sure that it's okay. Oh, that's really good. It's really good. You could even syrup, a little bit of lemon soda, and then just plain sparkly water if you didn't want it to be quite so sweet. I think it actually needs a little bit more sage. And you could add more herb to your syrup if you wanted. I mean, all of these things are totally adaptable to your taste and flavor. Great. A few things I wanted to mention, but the slides were that for the most part, farmers markets have ceased over the valley, but in the handouts, there's a copy of this Idaho Farmers Market Guide. Some markets do have winter markets that go throughout the holidays, so I encourage you to check that out if you're looking for more local sources. I know Boise Farmers Market, Nampa Farmers Market, Homedale, those are just the ones I know off the top of my head that do continue on or have a holiday aspect to them. The other thing I want to point out is that those markets also accept EBT or electronic food benefits. So if you receive a Quest card, you can use those benefits for fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs, meats, cheeses, bread at your farmers markets. So I encourage anyone who has access to those benefits and would like to get some of those local foods can certainly use it in that way. So the last thing I wanted to mention about our herbs is, okay, so if you're growing the sage in your backyard, that's fantastic. I hope that you are. And if you're not yet, I was going to show you really quickly, and it's going to probably just be on this slide for a second. So you want to take a picture of that QR code. It's going to take you right to a link on how to do it. So this is if you wanted to propagate a sage plant or a rosemary plant or something like that really quickly. Just take a healthy sprig, take off most of the leaves, okay, because you don't want it to have to support a whole lot of leaf growth. Make sure that you have at least 4 or 5 nodes where leaves used to be attached on the stem, and put it in a jar of water and just put it somewhere in your house where it gets a little bit of light, and it's actually going to root really easily. And then you can have a sage plant indoors all winter that would be ready to plant out in the spring. And these sages are perennial crops, so they are winter hardy for the most part, which is why I like them for Thanksgiving too. They're still alive in my yard when everything else is dead. So herb sparklers, encourage you to challenge yourself to add one more Idaho grown product to your Thanksgiving table, and try growing some indoor herbs for the winter.
Hey, Ariel, we did have one question.
Sure.
They're wondering if they can use dried herbs when making the infused syrup.
Yeah, so you probably could. I think it'll be more like a tea, and you probably would want to either wrap those herbs in a cheesecloth or have a really good strainer after the boiling. I say if that's what you have access to, great, give it a try. The flavor is going to be different. It's not going to be quite as bright and herby, but it would certainly, our woody herbs like rosemary and sage still may have quite a bit of flavor that way. Yeah.
While we're waiting to see if anyone else has questions, I will put a link in the chat for our survey that we would appreciate you taking.
Also here on the screen, the QR code for that. And I just wanted to tell you, it's on the recipe, but some of my favorite combinations would be sage with any kind of lemon flavor. Thyme might go really well with like cherry or other berry flavored sparkling waters. Like we love like these seltzers and things like that. They have so many fun flavors now. Like thyme would go well with a blackberry water. Mint goes really well with ginger ale and ginger flavors. Basil is another one that's great with lemon. And then rosemary is actually surprisingly good with grape and apple flavors. So give some of those a try. And somebody else asked about fruits. I mean, and certainly you could go crazy with this. You could, put fresh fruit into your drinks. I was even thinking of pouring this syrup over vanilla ice cream and having like a sage ice cream. I know Andrew Bingham is on the call today. He is getting into making ice cream. Like fresh fruits and berries also in that drink would be delicious.
I do have a quick question. So you've done a great job explaining how you can get on lists, with your local farmers markets or with local farmers. What about when we're shopping in the grocery store? Do you have any tips and tricks for shopping local that way?
Sure. And I do see there was a question about turkey. I'll get back to that. Thanks, Elena. So It depends on where you live, and if you have an independent grocer, sometimes even Walmart is carrying local fresh fruits and vegetables in season. So I would check the produce department first, and you could always ask the grocer, the produce manager, any of these crops coming from Idaho. And the ones I would look for now would be apples, pumpkins, winter squash. Those would be good options right now. And then in terms of onions and potatoes, typically there are some Idaho potatoes at almost every grocery store, and often there are Idaho onions as well. As far as meats and things like that and dairy, it's going to be harder unless it's more of a specialty grocery or a co-op sometimes to find those products locally. So you're better finding those at a co-op or a farm stand or a farmer's market. And the links that that slide went so fast. I was going to say the links that I have there on that went along with the All Idaho Thanksgiving checklist, those are great places to find out what's near you. And you might discover, a gem of a store or a farm stand that you didn't even know is there. And then finding the local turkeys. Yeah, I have seen actually some of the most recent activity I've seen are on Facebook groups of people saying, I've got birds ready to process, or I'm going to have some available. But typically, I would visit with some of your farmers market vendors that are selling local meat in the summer and say, hey, I'm interested in getting on the list for a turkey. Do you have them? Do you know anyone that does? And again, your best bets are probably closer to the Treasure Valley, because we have butchers that process local turkeys. Not every community has that resource. So I don't think most people want to take a live bird and turn it into Thanksgiving. So we kind of need those local processors to do that for us. Yeah. And Idaho Preferred is really fantastic. That's one of the links that I use very often because they are so statewide. And that would be a good place to look to. And then maybe plan ahead for your garden next year. If you're able to grow a garden where you live, what would you like to have on your table that you could produce yourselves? Anybody have a favorite local Idaho food that they try to feature in a holiday meal? Apples, yes, definitely. We just harvested a whole lot of butternut squash. Oh, huckleberry pancakes. Yes, always potatoes. Definitely. And it's pretty great, that the potatoes that we can find locally are, the best potatoes in the whole world, right? So that's pretty nice. I do know that we can't really grow cranberries here in Idaho, but we can get them from Oregon and from Washington State, which is not that far away. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, you all. That's really all I have for today's presentation. Really glad to see you all on today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and be excited to hear back about what you add to your Thanksgiving table that's Idaho grown, or even better, from your own backyard.